So anyway, this is the clip that Cucy apparently got struck for, which is obviously fair use as well.
Certainly acknowledge that there are many people who are, 13, 14, 15 that have sex with an adult and then feel as if they were taken advantage of too.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, so let's focus on the worst. Yeah, okay, so let's pretend like we all have our like utopia. So if I could answer this in utopia, right? In my like perfect ANCAP utopia. Each community.
So this is her perfect world. Just keep that in mind.
And so it'd be each caregiver, parent, and community, including teachers, potential faith leaders. And
by the way, I want you guys to notice whose channel this is on. Liberty Lockdown. It's not even Eliza's to strike down, by the way. Just want to throw that out there.
Neighbors will decide if the child is ready to consent and look at the child's behavior. Do they have a job? How is their education going? Are they cognitively available to have sex with this individual? And then also look at the history of the individual as well. So does this individual have a history of abuse?
Yep.
And then you go from there.
Certainly.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know if they're agreeing or with their head nods or if they're just like, okay, I'm hearing you kind of head nod. But I don't know who thought that sounded good. Was the chat doing that too? Were they like clapping in chat? Was the chat like on board with this or what? Like, are you insane? Having the fucking neighborhood get to decide if your teenage or even preteen child gets to fuck? That is creepy. And I saw the funniest meme in regard to this, by the way. I was laughing my ass off when I saw this meme. Eliza Blue, the council has covened you and declared that you may have sex with this 13-year-old child. This is literally what she wants in her perfect ANCAP utopia. Like literally the whole neighborhood gets to decide if a 13-year-old fucks with them. What is this? What is this reality? And this is the person that gets their way, that gets to just like censor people? Is the person says the neighborhood gets to decide if your child gets to get dicked down? Are you for real? I lost my shit seeing this. I was busy being stuck in the snow, guys, but I was losing it to this. I really was. So we can all agree that that was not like out of context, right? I saw other parts of the podcast that's from. They were contextually talking about like 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds, etc. So it's very creepy to me. For her to say that that's utopia.
The community and the child. If the child so desires to have intercourse with an adult.
She's like, yeah, the child desires. Here's the thing, Eliza. Children, it doesn't matter if they desire something. If they desire to have sex, there could be a 13-year-old saying, I want to be a porn star. I want to be an online prostitute. I want an OnlyFans all day. They can scream it all day. That still doesn't mean that it's consensual. Because they cognitively can't understand the consequence of that. They cognitively cannot consent to that. People that are not cognitively there, they cannot consent to things. That's what consent is. I thought she was the fucking professional victim. I thought she was Miss Anti-Human Trafficking. I thought she would know this basic concept of consent. Shouldn't you know that if you're an anti-trafficking advocate? Going around accepting awards for it, which by the way, in your own award speech given, they didn't even have a highlight reel to play for you because they had nothing to show for it. You would think she would know what consent means. It doesn't matter, guys. It doesn't matter if the child consents verbally. It's not consensual. They're mentally incapable of consenting to something like that. They can't. They don't understand. And it doesn't matter how mature they are. They can be the most mature 13-year-old you ever fucking met. Guess what? They still can't consent to sex with an adult, okay? It'd be different maybe if it's like within 3 years and they're both teenagers. Yeah, you don't want to lock teens up for having sex with other teens, obviously. But this is not coming across as the case at all.
If the child so desires to have intercourse with an adult, the parents, caregivers, and anyone that's, it's just what I just said. That would be up to if the child has desire and if the community also decides that the person that they're supposed to have intercourse with is not using force, fraud, coercion, manipulation.
This is really like NAMBLA talking points. It's like predator talking points, which is really interesting coming from someone who's supposed to protect victims from predators and represent them. Like how she said she was going to do with Tate's victims or whatever. It's like, okay, well, their case might as well be thrown out if she's representing them and standing up for them. What the fuck does her word mean? She doesn't even understand the basic principle of consent. How can she defend anyone? How can she defend any victims? Because according to her, in a perfect world, kids aren't victims if they have sex with adults. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter how consensual the kid thought it was. It's still not consensual. Guys, nothing can make up for time. Time is very valuable. It's such a valuable thing that you can't buy it. Nothing can buy time, so to speak. You either are a person that's lived so long or you're not. So it doesn't matter how mature you are for your age, you will still not be as mature as someone who is like, I don't know, like 100 years old. Even if you are on a technical basis more mature and more knowledgeable, it's because they actually have the lived experience. The lived experience is of value. It is a factor. It doesn't matter how mature you are. You need to actually do it. You need to actually live the experiences in order to have that wisdom to a point. It's a point of value. It's not just like how smart you are. Doesn't matter if you have 200 IQ. It's still not the same as wisdom from actually aging. So this is bullshit.
Intercourse with is not using force, fraud, coercion, manipulation.
Why don't you have a seat there and get comfortable for that?
Seriously. Great edit by Frank, by the way. But it's funny, but it makes me so mad. It makes me so mad watching that this is the person that's advocating for underage, because that's her focus. She says this all the time, especially in this interview. She actually mentions that her focus is about children, so go to the worst thing, right? As you heard in the beginning of one of the clips. She's supposed to be advocating for children, yet she's like, oh, like the children can consent to adults having sex with them as long as there's no coercion or extortion and things like that. It's like, no, actually, it's still not consensual. Like you're still how did the child get the thought in their head that they want to fuck an adult? Like that just magically happened? So this is an interesting part. I don't know if anybody has covered this yet. Maybe I missed it, guys. Let me know if someone else already covered this. But according to this account, Grifty, to put it simply, they claim that Eliza allegedly had relations with a 17-year-old. So that might have something to do with her whole stance of children can consent with adults under certain situations. You know, this might have something to do with that. So let's go ahead and go through this. He says, so here's an interesting thread about Eliza Blue. I want to preface for legal TOS reasons that everything expressed in this thread is alleged. I have my due diligence to verify everything, but should I be presented with compelling evidence, I will retract. Let's meet Christopher Finch. He was a young man in Naperville, Illinois. Christopher lives with Asperger's syndrome, as you can see in the local news article. Okay, so we have someone who has to deal with something mentally. So the reason I want to bring that up is that would, in my opinion, affect someone's ability to consent. Like if you have something you're dealing with, like autism, it doesn't mean you're dumb. Or if you're dealing with certain mental things going on that could affect your judgment, that can affect consent, in my opinion. Well, on a magical night of July 2013, Chris spent a magical night with one Eliza Sipe. He posted about it on Instagram later that night. Tonight, I want to dedicate this night to a lovely young woman named Miss Eliza Sipe, who I met at Whitney Young High. Why was she at a fucking high school? Because that's what I'm assuming that says high ... high school. What was she doing at a high school? Shouldn't she be at like a parent-teacher conference at this point in her life? So he's posting on Instagram that he had a lovely night with a young lady. I like how you threw that in there. Young lady Eliza Sipe, when she's like, not that 30 is old, but like that he's throwing it in there with the fact that she's 30. But there's something a little wrong with the situation. You see, Chris was only 17 at this time. As you can see, he celebrated his 18th birthday in December of that year. Note the dates at the bottom of the post. Happy 18th, Christopher. That is very strange, guys. Okay, I'm gonna put it this way. If your 17-year-old daughter was hanging out with a guy who was like 30 years old and having a magical night with them, would you guys let that fly? She was 32 at the time, because it was in 2013, and it was after she had started her advocacy work. She was 32, according to this post, He was 17. July 13th, 2013, he spends the night with her. December 24th, 2013, he turns 18. Why is that? Why is a survivor advocate having magical nights with 17-year-olds, and why are they hanging around a high school? I know the whole like South Park meme of like nice or whatever, but just take into account if a guy was hanging around a 17-year-old like this, it would not... that's 30 years old, it would not look good. A 30-year-old man hanging around a 17-year-old, having magical nights with them, hanging around a high school. This comes across to me as predatory. And also, this gives more context for this, which we had brought up before. As you can see, Felicia killings help fund Eliza. This woman actually gave a confession and had relations allegedly with a 16-year-old boy. So it's interesting that she takes money off of people like that who are doing things like that. Yeah, I thought that was interesting in regard to her whole spiel about consent, and sometimes children can consent with adults and that whole thing. It's like, why would you be trying so hard to bring that point home? Why would you focus on it so hard? Well, now we have a theory as to why that might be. So here's actually an important part of the Daily Beast article I actually wanted to go over, and it's the most recent biggest update about this situation. So in the article, it actually says, around 2016, Wenzel claims that Blue asked her to join an escort, promising Wenzel, her friend, could make $500 in a night, an offer that stunned Wenzel and her husband. She was absolutely loving it, Wenzel said. She was bragging about it. She was saying that it's making her so much money. Blue later suggested that sex workers with a pimp might qualify as trafficking victims. Oh yeah, you know, anything's trafficking if you fucking squeeze your eyes narrow enough, huh? Look, with mine, I could definitely make anything trafficking if I wanted it. But though Wenzel said she didn't meet any pimp or trafficker when she socialized with Blue, be it an unnamed high-profile athlete or otherwise. So it looks like Eliza was a free agent here, according to this friend. She's a very powerful, very smart, intelligent woman. I will not discredit her for that, Wenzel said. She knows exactly what she's doing. Yeah, and exactly what she's doing here is something she would call trafficking. This is something Eliza would call trafficking. Oh, $500 a night? Where do we remember that number from, guys? Oh yeah, her story she told about how when she went to LA when she was 16 or whatever other age she threw out there, that she got trafficked for $500. Yeah, it's not looking like it's looking like that same $500 was offered to another girl to get her into prostituting herself by Eliza Blue. No pimp needed. So as Quartering says here, Eliza Blue was Ghislaine Maxwell. So Miss I was sold for $500, I guess, is according to this article, off doing the same thing that she claims is trafficking, but to other people, to other girls. So who even knows if this is the only one that this happened to? Assuming that she's telling the truth, of course. The whole article is right here. I quote, "I was sold for $500 to a very old gentleman in the hills," Blue said in 2020 interview. We all saw her talk about this multiple times. Eliza claims to be trafficked for $500, then turns around to Wenzel, according to this article, a girl, and offers her $500 in a night to make her prostitute herself. Why would Eliza offer that? Why would you try to get other women to prostitute themselves? Unless you're making money off of it, of course. Not only is she allegedly trafficking girls, according to her own definition, right? But also, she is potentially making money off of it, because what other recruitment incentive is there? You know, it's very strange. And also the fact that she's supposed to be representing Tate's victims and advocating for them with this? Are you kidding me? You're doing them no favors. Even if they are telling the truth, you're doing them no favors, Eliza.